We are here because we are dedicated to helping members of our community build lean, strong bodies and confident, resilient minds. Determined to elevate the lives of working professionals, stay-at-home parents, and anyone who is ready to level up their life. Our invigorating group fitness classes, practical nutrition programs, and authentic coaches help ignite your life. Find a place that believes in you. Find a place that challenges you. Find CrossFit Southpaw.
All right, we are here with Addison Bain, head coach at CrossFit Southpaw, among a number of other accomplishments. Addison has a big chunk of classes that he coaches, but in addition to that, he's the mastermind behind our programming. And one thing we've done recently is moved into more of a strength-based cycle. And when we say that in CrossFit, it's not exclusively strength movements, but for our members, they've noticed a distinct change from what a typical day will look like to what we're doing now. And we look at these in kind of semi-periodic chunks. And Addison, tell us more about yourself and what we're doing right now in the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I'm Addison, guys. I'm I would say unofficially the head coach at Southpaw. I think it's a community that works together to bring us all together, and I'm lucky to stand towards the front of that and hopefully guide people in the right direction. But I am also what we'd say is the mastermind behind the programming. And man, I don't know how to necessarily say or tell somebody how to program. I don't think there's definitely a wrong way. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's a right way. And because group fitness is such a almost a double-edged sword. Is that the right term for it? Because
yeah,
working out with a friend will always get you results no matter the programming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have accountability, you have somebody to, you have the carrot to chase, you have the rabbit
mm-hmm.
to chase.
It brings the energy
up.
But
yeah, absolutely. But also, that being said, it's a really big challenge to program for a program that works for you, Nick, somebody who's been experienced for over 10 years in the CrossFit industry and fitness, that is following the same program as somebody that is stepping in the door for their third or fourth class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we find a balance in that? And how do we flow through the year of making sure that we maintain an equal balance on the spectrum of strength and endurance, because they are two totally opposite things, right? Like strength, we bring it down below 5 reps. Endurance, I personally believe that happens above 10 reps if you're looking at a barbell.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to get into the other side of things and you have to blend, we could say, the colors together, right? To say, all right, I can still build strength while running, but how do I build that? Well, my running efforts need to be power driven. That means I can run 10 meters at a time instead of 10,000 meters at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a consistent balance of that. And one of the things is we just recently went into a strength cycle, 8 weeks. What's nice though is maybe it's going really well. We can adjust it to 9 weeks, or we're starting to see people get a little tired. Their central nervous system is starting to fatigue out. We can bump it down to 7 weeks. I think sometimes people say, nope, got to do it for 12 weeks. Nope, you're going to hit 55% this week. I don't care how you feel. 55%. Well, what if you're having a bad week? What if you're having a really good week? Hit that heavy set of 3, or take it easy, right? Set back, say, all right, I know I was out walking my dog yesterday and he yanked me on the leash and it bummed my shoulder. And my heavy set of 3 bench press today, which is what we're doing in class today, isn't going to be as heavy. But I know next week, if I take myself down today, next week I can hit a little heavier bench press. And it's a really big challenge, man. Like openly, I'll tell that to everybody, right? Because, and I just use vague names, but we'll say Lindsay wants to do more endurance, right? But how do we keep Lindsay happy and Bobby happy that wants to do 1 rep max deadlift, right? So that comes back to the education of the coaches and say, hey, we're here to balance the spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we believe fitness is a balance of A to Z. So how can we flow that through the year? And I think by bringing it down and saying for the next 8 weeks, roughly, right? I don't want to get anybody locked into that. Is saying, all right, let's get really strong because we just got ready or we just finished a Murph. Mm-hmm. And as we know, Murph is that 40+ minute workout. Mm-hmm. Nick, I'm sure you did it in like 17:11, right? Was your
yeah, 17 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Just 1 second faster than Adam. No, but anyway, so we just came off of that. And I think sometimes if you get into that traditional, like, I use the term funny in a funny manner, but I'll say hashtag, right? Hashtag CrossFit is like, oh, you got to hit Fran. And then tomorrow you got to hit your heavy 1 rep max power clean, right? And then tomorrow, well, we got to do Cindy. And you do still have to flow through cycles. Otherwise you're kind of painting with too big of a paintbrush.
That brings up a really good point, Addison. And this is something that we talk about a lot offline. And part of what I'd like to do here is share some of those discussions with people so they understand where we're coming from. But I think both of us agree that CrossFit changed fitness. It was a landmark event in the fitness industry. Arnold Schwarzenegger, was it Jack LaLanne, CrossFit, right? Just change things around. But we also recognize that the quote unquote traditional CrossFit model has its faults, right? Or things that don't work with the demographic people that we serve. And I think there are two big areas that manifest in our gym, or broadly speaking, in the context of this call, coaching and programming, right? And I want to dig in a little bit to the programming side of things. Some of our dynamic days doing banded clean pulls, for instance, we don't prescribe a weight. We do in some workouts to help give coaches an idea of what the workout should feel like, but in others, we let the athletes choose. And so that athlete who has that, they want to run a fast 10K, and the athlete who wants to do a 1 rep max, how would you approach that as a coach or a programmer?
Yeah. So let's banded clean pulls. Do we kind of want to go down that of why do we use the banded clean?
Not necessarily that. I'm just throwing that out there as a kind of a less traditional CrossFit movement that you don't see as much.
One thing that I have taken a lot of pride in, Nick, is being creative in everything that I do. I mean, I can pretty much turn the camera around here. I got a painting on the wall, a couple of paintings, right? And you can probably see a guitar, right? And I've kind of always steered towards that area of my life. I was a graphic design artist, but I just not a computer person. I'm not a sit inside person and like paint on or I'm not like a musical person. I wish I was. I really know. I know you like to play guitar, but I just don't have that. But I've found that creative outlet through exploring human movement. And what that's allowed me to do is retain client attention. And the reality is that if we add the dynamic and the creative movements, it allows people to explore movement in a different manner than what's traditional. Who said that a 5x5, or excuse me, like what's the cycle? Wendler cycle. Is it Wendler cycle? That's 5-3-1. 5-3-1. Who said that's right? Right. The other thing that's cool about bands, for example, is it exposes if the bar path isn't in the proper position. Right. If you try to do those clean pulls and you're leaning forward on your toes, the bar is going to pull forward. Right. You can no longer muscle it. You have to sit back on your heels. You have to make sure that band is anchored in the arches of your feet. And then you properly extend through the knees and the hips for that bar path to settle in place.
Well,
the same thing.
In that example, with the clean pulls for the athlete who wants to run a 10K, the athlete who wants to deadlift, right? Sorry. Or whatever. No. I'm just made me think of this, but the human condition, the condition of life is such that we need to be prepared to encounter and tackle problems that we have never tackled before, right? And that's the essence of what the daily experience is. And when we expose people to new movements, creative movements, whatever it happens to be, or different variations of the same movement, it forces them to tell their body what to do. And that response that they then get is not only physical in nature. It builds a resiliency of the mind and a confidence to approach a new problem and figure out how to solve it.
Correct.
And that's a big extrapolation a few degrees away, but I think that's one of the things that I've been noticing with some of these programming and some of the workouts and movements we've been doing is just that it's the similar thing, it's similar pattern. We recognize a continuous theme. It's progressively building, but it doesn't. It draws these bigger parallels to life.
So, in a more deep conversation, and maybe this, I know that people that listen to this, sometimes we want to keep it simple, right? And they just say,
we're going deep,
because
man.
It helps. Yeah, I know. But, we've talked about this offline before, just like keeping it simple, but also how do you, help feed the brains of the clients that really want to understand? And there might be somebody listening to this. So I just want to explain it in a little bit more. And the specific term for it is actually called RNT train, or RNT. So an RNT lunge would mean that you're bending the knee to pull the knee out of place. And then you set it back. RNT stands for reactive neuromuscular training. Okay, so you can do it with an overhead squat, right? You're going to set the band around your elbows and the band, it's going to pull you forward. Well, now you have to subconsciously pull yourself back into place, right? A lunge is a really common movement to do it with, where the band wants to collapse the knee towards the other knee, right? So it's pulling it in towards the middle of the body. And actively through the glutes, we have to pull it out. Right. So a little bit of that's happening with the deadlift. An RNT deadlift would actually pull the bar away from you, so you'd have to pull it back into place. A banded deadlift or a banded clean pull actually just increases resistance the further it gets away from the band, right? So now it also allows people to come back and train tomorrow. So we're not necessarily loading the bar more, which will fry the central nervous system, because I really hold that close, because mostly because I've been in that place before, right? We kind of experience things and you're like, oh my God, I'd never want the rest of the population to go through a central nervous burnout, right? I'm sure you've been there too, many times.
Many times.
So what I find is like a banded clean pull allows us to add resistance. The other thing is if you watch most people, they're really strong at the top of a deadlift. They don't struggle finishing the deadlift, especially in the CrossFit world, where we practice Olympic lifts, where we do kettlebell swings, where we do box jumps, and our hips are already really strong through the use of our glutes, right? So maximizing that deadlift through the final pull, I know we're getting caught up on the deadlift, maximizing that deadlift through the final pull is really beneficial to the individual practicing it.
And I think that draws a great parallel to just generally the benefit of adding a more intentional strength cycle. Like you said, it's painting with a big broad brush, and so it's helpful to be able to get into these smaller cycles where we have a bigger focus. And I really like the analogy for some reason of the 10K and the 1 rep max deadlift. Obviously, the strength is going to benefit the 1 rep max deadlift. The person who wants to just run a 10K, I say this as a cross-country runner or a former cross-country runner, maybe like recovered cross-country runner, some might say.
I saw you run those 400s.
I love distance running, but life also, it needs me to adapt in other ways. I have to have an element of strength. I have to be able to go short and fast. But if you want to perform well on even longer Metcons, let's say in Murph, we're doing body weight squats. If I have a 200-pound squat versus a 300-pound squat, those body weight squats are going to feel a lot harder, relatively speaking. So increasing our overall strength and awareness of how our body moves with loading in whatever workout that happens to be, the relative percentage goes down, and it can make substantial differences in how effectively we go through the workout and what our overall fitness levels are.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's the balance of opposites, which is really important, right?
And go into that a little bit. I love that analogy. The balance of opposites.
Yeah, man. Balance of opposites is kind of a metaphor that I would live my life by, right? Like, and literally in everything I do, especially now that it's been a few years that I've stepped away from like a hyper focused goal of competitive fitness, you know, is that if I'm inside for 15 minutes, I believe I need to be outside for 15 minutes, right? If I want max out my deadlift today, I believe that I need to run the 10K tomorrow, right? If I eat 2 pounds of beef, I do believe that I need to eat 2 pounds of vegetables. You know, whatever that is that I truly believe that that's almost the answer, man, is like, that's what keeps us going. Because if you just get stuck in the rabbit hole, that's why you burn out, right?
Dude, I think it's the key to literally almost everything's balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's white, you got to get black, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to, because otherwise you get stuck in this narrow mindset.
Dude, what's tough is that I think social media tells us the opposite, right? It highlights the Steve Jobs, it highlights the Steve Prefontaine, whoever it is, who like they don't sleep for 3 months and they build this successful company, and then we all want to do that. Or they squat heavy every single day for a year, and then all of a sudden they break some record or whatever. And it's those stories that are inspirational, no doubt, but it's a great clickbait headline, but it moves away from what will lead people to feel passion, feel drive, feel connection, which is finding balance, right?
Yeah,
Sleep
man. And like, even if you stand on, like, we can speak athletic terms, right? That's what we do. But even if you stand on the podium at the Olympics with a gold medal around your neck, you still have to go back to your hotel room by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't have anything outside of swimming, what are you going to go home to?
Yeah.
Right. If you're not swimming, you better be into reading. Right. Because I get that there's a hyper focused goal, and one goal, like you can, the CrossFit community can say Matt Frazier, right? Why do you have to step away this past year? Because that's all he did, right? He truly didn't have the balance. And maybe I'm at a different place in my life, or maybe my goal is much broader paintbrush right now, right? If somebody steps in our gym and their goal is strength gain or fat loss, they should hyper focus on that goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they also need to reserve 40% of their time for the balance. Because if all of a sudden they're showing up 3 times a day for the first 3 weeks, and then they burn out, we're not going to see them again. And you and I have seen that the whole time, right?
And I would argue too, man, that's a great point, because there is a time and place, and this doesn't mean at all that we shouldn't work hard, right? Or you shouldn't work for a goal or have a goal. But what I found in my experience is that the key to whatever it happens to be is consistency and sustainability, right? If I can do it over a long period of time, that's where I'm going to find success. Sure, if I needed to, I could go lose 10 or 15 pounds in a week. I could just absolutely starve myself, water weight, sauna, whatever, right? 10 pounds, probably, realistically. I mean, there are UFC fighters do it.
They got a lot more
right?
baggage than that, dude.
Yeah. But it's going to come right back.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the point of this is that, like, what I found is that if you find balance, you're more efficient and more successful in the other things that you do, right? If you find some alone time, some time to reflect and process, you're more present when you're with others. When you take some time to move and exercise for your body, you're so much more productive at work and so much more present with your family and friends.
Yeah.
Like, and it's counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I know I speak about it a lot, because it's a substantial thing in my life, but jiu-jitsu, right? The blue belt's the quitter's belt. And really that, like, the white belt is the hardest belt to earn, right? Because you step through the door and you earn the white belt, right? The hardest thing to do when you join a gym is to step through the door. We know that. You can, how many text messages have we got over up lunch that says, hey, Billy, you interested in Southpaw? And then the next thing you know is, nah, I'm no longer interested. Literally just got one yesterday about it.
Yeah.
And then, so to keep that relative to like jiu-jitsu, you get your blue belt. Now what? It's 10 years before a black belt.
You caught in no
right?
man's land.
Yeah, exactly. And the blue belt's the longest one of them all. Well, in comparison, or how is that relative to what we do at Southpaw, is that you can step in the door, and let's just say your goal is to lose 50 pounds. Like you said, 10 pounds overnight. There's your white belt. You still got 30 pounds to go. And those are the hardest to lose. Excuse me. You still have 40 pounds to go. Right. And that's going to be the hardest to lose.
We're going to get called out on our math on this podcast.
I know. Actually, speaking of, I wrote that in the programming one day. I was like, yeah, use 75% of 200. And I wrote 180.
Yeah,
like,
I coached that day.
Yeah, so
I just read it. So do the math.
Yeah. Anyway, so I corrected it. Anyhow, so and just to cover that up, I was a math master when I was a kid. Anyways, but it's something that's really relative in our community. I see it all the time, and not just at Southpaw at all. I'm speaking among the fitness communities. How many people show up and they're like, now's my time. Now's my time, right? I started eating salads. I'm going to bed earlier, and they're like all gung ho for 30 days, and then it's gone, poof, right? And that's why I always tell people when they first start anything, even if they're experienced, let's say they've been doing CrossFit or group fitness, whatever, for 8 years. And they're like, I need a change. Addison, can you help me individually? Right? I absolutely can, but I need you to commit to 90 days. Because the first 30 days are fun. The middle 30 days are not. The final 30 days is where we start connecting.
Where the magic happens. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Those middle 30 days in a 90-day period, man, honestly, like for lesser of terms, they kind of suck. Yeah. Because you've got the new routine down and nothing's really changing. Your body hasn't caught up to you. And that's why P90X works so well. Right? Like, because it was that window. And if people can step through our doors and say, I'm going to do this for 3 months, you'll keep them. Right? And they'll keep themselves. The community will, you make new friends, you start seeing results, you understand what a power snatch is, the most dynamic movement in the world, right? Day one, you do power snatch, you're like, this is fun. And then all of a sudden you just plateau at 55 pounds and you're like, now what?
Yeah.
Right. So it's chasing that breakthrough and continuing to build on that. The balance of the opposites is what it is.
Yeah. And that constantly doing something, different for your body, it teaches you how to push through that. And you're snatching heavy one day for low reps and lighter for high reps next week, and you're running in between and you're hopping on the bike or whatever. Yeah. But I think it brings up a broader issue that I've noticed, and you may have picked up on this as well, working with people and bringing them into the gym, which is that a lot of people are looking for weight loss, like building muscle, whatever it happens to be. There's a few very common goals. Like, as humans, we naturally want to look better naked. That's what it is, right? And we want to feel better in our own skin. We want to sleep better. We want to be more healthy. But what we need isn't some magical program necessarily, or some magical movement or a magical shake that we can drink. We need systems in place. And I don't say systems in the kind of cliche sense, but we need people. We need an environment that we enjoy. If you go to the gym and you don't know how to use a machine or what movements to do, and you think people are kind of staring at you and no one knows who you are, no wonder you don't want to go back. Right? If you go to the gym and, conversely, there's someone there waiting to welcome you there, to explain the workout, to teach you how to do it. You're doing it with other people who are suffering just like you are. It's encouraging. It's uplifting because you feel really good afterward. You feel this sense of accomplishment and belonging, and it makes you want to go back. And that the habit doesn't suffer from a lack of willpower. It suffers from a lack of the correct structure. And that's obviously in a more of a broad sense. There are individual cases too, but the accountability, the community are what the magic sauce is, and how you create structures to help bolster those so that people enjoy their experience. And at the end of the day, we do things we enjoy, and we don't do things we don't enjoy.
Yeah. And like, I know we kind of started this in a conversation regarding programming, and then it kind of evolved in, the conversation balance of opposites and all of that. But I want to wrap it back around to programming though, right? Like, I don't want people that are listening to this, or I speak to the audience that's listening, to think that you can just deadlift heavy today and then run a 10K tomorrow and then back squat the next day heavy, and then row a 5K and then bench press heavy and then run a marathon. It doesn't necessarily work like that, right?
Yeah.
You still need to
It's much more complex.
still need, you have to take a progressive approach, right? And that's where it comes back to the development of programming. We are going through a progressive approach of strength right now. Our goal is to get back up some strength numbers, right? Because we did just spend, I think it was like 6 weeks getting ready for Murph. So really, here we are again, right? Strength went down because our endurance went up for Murph. Well, I can't just say, all right, Murph is over, max out your deadlift and expect a PR, right?
Yeah.
Injuries happen that way. Literally, injuries happen. But we also want to stabilize that deadlift, right? We want you to turn around and be able to hit 90% consistently. And to be able to do that, we have to spend 8 weeks under substantial loading. Instead, substantial is relative to your physical and psychological capabilities, right? So it's a really tough wheel to balance front and back.
And Addison, this brings up a point that we had started talking about and deviated away from. And I think it's really important because I really appreciate what you've done with the way that you program strength movements, and that we're not saying that, all right, we're doing a 5x5 at 83% today, and that's it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Somebody they're dialed in on nutrition. They took yesterday off. They're feeling fresh and they want to get after it. Great. Let's hit it. Someone else is, going through stuff at home. They're, 2 of their kids are sick. They're, stressed out at work, and they just want to get in and move. And 85% might be out of reach, and not assigning that specific percentage. Just kind of talk about how that ends up playing out in classes.
Yeah, man. That is a really big pet peeve of mine, actually, those style of programs, because like you said, most people aren't sleeping 8 hours a night, eating a cooked meal by a professional cook. Yeah, a kale cooked meal. Cooked meal by a professional coach, living at the Olympic Training Center. How can I download this 12-week program and expect it to work? Right? Like, people get so caught up in those numbers, and
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy too, to a certain extent. Like, if you're supposed to hit 83%, you can't. You feel like garbage. Or I do. Yeah, I feel like garbage. I want to take ownership of that. I don't feel good if I can't hit the number that I'm supposed to hit magically.
Absolutely. And the reality is, Nick, there's people in this world that will never hit 83% again. Right. And the reality of that is I'm one of those. Like, I don't have the aspirations currently to hit 95% of my 1 rep max clean, honestly, ever again, because the time commitment that it took me to hit those clean numbers was life consuming, right? And that lost the balance of the opposites.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's where somebody comes in and they'll ask me, what do you expect me to hit today? Your absolute best. That's all I want today. Is, how are you feeling? I feel really good. Let's go for it. But I had a client this morning at 5 a.m. who's got a bummed bicep, right? But he still shows up. That's the number one thing. If you've got a bummed ankle, come to class, right? Because the psychological benefit is going to outweigh the physical benefit right now. And that's what's important. We can make up the physical benefit. The psychological damage
from being a results based to gosh, I just had this, like, not systems based, but process oriented, from a results oriented situation to a process oriented, where the win is in your control, which is, do you show up or not? That's in your control to a large extent. The outcome has a number of factors in it. To say that my goal is to win a competition, I get why people would say that and do, and it's not always wrong. But what if someone else just does better than you? like you can still leave knowing that you did really well, right? And hopefully be proud of that. And I get that there's exceptions in competitive sport, but we can't always say, I'm going to go in and win the class workout today. How did I perform? How did I show up for that?
One of the best things that I've ever learned in my life, actually, it was from Laird Hamilton. Sorry, I'm just trying to exactly remember the moment. I used to train with Laird. I'm not sure if you knew that, but so I used to train with Laird. Yeah, he's a big wave surfer. And yeah, exactly. And he's a pioneer, literally a pioneer in the surfing world. And everybody in the surfing world knows who he is. And most people actually know who he is too. Like, and that's quite the accomplishment.
Yeah.
Laird has competed one time in his life.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he thought he had and the reason he won't compete is because he went out there, had a smashing time, right? Not an actual time, but enjoyed the moment, right?
Yeah.
Loved it. Every single thing. Came back to shore, got second place, I think. And I specifically remember hearing him talk about this, or he's telling me. And he's like, I said I'd never compete again because of that.
Huh.
But there's also an illness within that. Correct.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, I was like, I no longer need to compete against anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now I've learned to compete against myself. And that's what I encourage every single person to do.
That's the victory.
Compete against yourself. Right? Because Adam might not be running next to you, but I can always beat Adam. No, but Adam might not always be running next to me, or Billy might not always be on the bike next to me, or Lindsay might not be doing muscle ups next to me, right? But that doesn't mean I didn't have a great workout, feel better. I took a break from sitting at the computer programming or take a break from coaching, whatever I'm up to, and feel good about it, right? Laird pioneered the surfing world. He went and competed and said he got second place, never competed again. And he still to this day is known as one of the best, or if not the best, big wave surfer to ever live. And that's substantial. Tell me a baseball player that's done that.
Yeah. No one.
Right. And yeah, exactly. And we get so caught up in these results sometime that it's just like, take a deep breath, hit an awesome bench press. It doesn't matter that it was 5, 3, 3, 3, 3 today, right? Did it feel good? Yeah. Did it challenge you? It did. Was it an honest challenge though? Yes, it was. Awesome. Then you succeeded.
And I think
that mindset.
Addison, I think that's so important to hammer in. And it's also something that I know I understand logically, but I still struggle with to this day. And because our
for
ego
a business owner,
still,
it's a big thing, right?
Yeah, I think is human. And I don't think ego is all bad even necessarily. That's a whole other area. But get into the mindset of like, it's me against me. And I've had some big shifts in that recently, which has been really cool. But I say that to people and I want to say, like, I know this isn't easy to do. Right. And they'll like, I'm competing against myself. It's tough, but that's where I think it's so helpful to surround yourself with a culture and to have people who help give you direction as to how to do that and learn how to do that. And it can reframe just your outlook on a lot of things.
Yeah. And I say all this, but I mean, we're two people, right, that understand this probably more than most, but you really have to be careful because it can be a sickness as well. Like if I go out and run a 5K today, or 5 miles today, that I have to tell myself that I don't have to go run 6 miles tomorrow. Yeah. Or 7 the next, and 8 the next, because all of a sudden you're running 200 miles every day, and that's an illness, right? I need to go out with an intention that I'm going to step up my front door.
Oh, that's an illness.
Run 5 miles. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to step out my front door and have a great 5 mile run. And you know how to have a great 5 mile run? Leave your watch at home.
Yeah.
Don't count the plates on the bar.
I've done that more and more recently. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I really try to get across to, like, finding the balance of training, because there are times, right? And I'm kind of borderline hypocritical right now, because but it's also my responsibility to explore. So there's a slight balance in my life. I'm doing a 9-week program of nasal breathing endurance building, right? And the program starts with a test, right? And the goal is at the end of the 9 weeks is to test and be better at it, right? But why am I doing it? Well, I need to explore this and see if it works for our clientele. Like, is it appropriate to put this in place? Okay, so I'm going to take somebody that has myself, I'm speaking of, that's done multiple endurance endeavors in his life, and I'm going to put a new environment for him. Did it work for that person? Would it work for somebody that's never done an endurance endeavor? Can they learn something from it, right? So that's the place that you can follow the system.
And
right?
I think I think that the test and retest is a good example too, because if you are looking at it through what I would say is more of a correct or healthy mindset with, where you test and then you do those days in the middle and then you retest, you can still have a victory each day in the middle that you show up and do the workout. And even if your retest doesn't go as well for whatever reason, that might be a day that you question some things and look at what may have happened. But if you reframe it, it's not all that time wasn't wasted. You're still learning something and doing something different. And also, side note, I just think that's a big benefit of having coaches who can go through, like, be in the alchemist lab trying to figure out what helps build fitness. There's so much noise out in the fitness industry right now. We have such an incredible mission in the fitness industry.
Weight.
Yeah. Like, getting people healthier and happier. Like, that is what we need more than anything in society right now. And it's just become like a dumpster fire with all these crappy programs and gimmicky, devices that claim that it's easy to do. It's not necessarily easy, right? It's worthwhile, but you can have coaches or people who have gone through the process themselves. They've gone, I don't want to say gone through the fire like it's some big, awesome thing that we did, but we've made the mistakes. We've tried and done different things and tinkered around to try to figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't leave us injured, that gets us results, and that helps us move closer to being the best version of ourselves that we can.
Yeah. And that's the dumpster fire of Instagram right now, right? Yeah. Like, there is some really cool stuff. And I actually just had an exposure to the dumpster fire this morning. Is I follow this person on Instagram, and they do a lot of really cool advanced movements. And I think it's rad. And I do some of them myself. I take some of them and put them in my own programming. But why am I doing that? Well, can I bring it into Southpaw? Is that appropriate? Like, does it fit the masses? Can I take it from a double flipped kettlebell snatch, right? Receiving it bottoms up. And can I simplify it just a little bit and make it creative to fit the general physical population, right? Well, I'm going to tell this story shortly, but it's going to wrap back around, is that this individual now writes a program, and it's called Freaky Friday Workouts for a hunting company. Well, I didn't actually open the email. I deleted it because it was just clickbait to me. But then I saw it on Instagram through this person's Instagram, and I was like, how is this possible? Like, you're marketing to a hunting company. The majority of hunters don't have a trap bar to do deadlifts with, right? Or to like do Zerker squats with, right? And it's supposed to be like this at-home workout. Like, what are you guys doing right now? If you really want to market to the hunting community, tell these guys to go join the local gym, get after some goblet squats, run a 5K, and build some endurance, because that's what hunting is. We don't have to show up to these Instagram things and be like, oh, you got to do 17 jumping split squats with a kettlebell overhead and a banded RNT and the slingshot band on your bench press. There is a time and a place for that.
Chains around your neck.
Yeah, exactly. But it looks cool. But there is a time and a place for that. So I also don't want to like say all this and then be like, well, we just abandoned deadlifts. Well, we did, but we added a dynamic movement to a simple movement.
Yeah. I think just like anything, man, it comes back to the why, right? Why are you doing it? What's the purpose? Right. And in that case of hunters, you're absolutely right. Like, we don't have trap bars. We have a lot of
we don't have any
barbells, but we don't have trap bars. We're a gym, right? And like, there's a lot of places that don't. It's not I would argue it's not a necessary piece of equipment. Is it nice? Would it be cool? Probably, yeah. But looking at the demographic and why are you doing it? Are you making noise, or are you adding to the conversation?
Yes, and to simplify it is that you don't have to make it complex, but you can still make it dynamic.
Yeah.
Right? Like add a band
great.
to the deadlift.
I like that.
Just simply add a band to the deadlift, right? If you're sick of back squatting really heavy, suspend a couple kettlebells from the end of the barbell. It'll shake the bar, right? And now it becomes dynamic.
Lighter
you don't have to band 17 times by yourself. If you're under the supervision of a professional, we're talking a different route, okay? But it's just a dumpster fire sometimes. Yeah. I know we're getting off track.
It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. No, I like this. This is great. And I think this is a good place to wrap it up today, Addison. But thank you for your time. It's great to have
I have a couple questions for you, because I was feeling pressure that I was going to get bombarded with all these questions. So I have 5 questions for you. They're really simple, but I think the viewers would like them. Let's see where this goes. And is cereal soup?
Cereal soup. I'm going to say no, because soup is hot in my experience. I'm probably going to get a lot of trash for this. This is going to be interesting. Let's see where this goes.
Pineapple on pizza?
I like some pineapple on pizza occasionally.
What
Not
kind?
a go-to.
Like,
I got to take a stance.
What is it? Oh.
I've enjoyed some sweet with the salty. I used to like keeping them separate, but I enjoy how it brings out the flavor. Yeah.
Cool. How many parts on a car do you have to replace before it's no longer the car you bought?
Ooh, that's a good question. But probably just the hood ornament, right? The one that says Ford. Slap a Chevy sticker on there, and
yeah. Then you have a better truck anyway. So
yeah.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I'm way overthinking this, man. I'm making like a pros cons list in my head. Hot dog is a sandwich. It's some meat wrapped in bread.
Well, all right. This one's a little bit longer. You can keep it simple, but and if you don't have an answer, no stress. It was just I found it and I thought it was good. Without naming names, what is the weirdest thing a guest has done at your house?
Weirdest thing a guest has done at my house. All right, this is going back to my childhood in Pakistan. So for those of you who didn't know, I lived overseas for 6 years growing up in the Middle East and Eastern Asia. So we lived in Pakistan, and we this has just popped into my head, so I'm going with it. We had a guy who was on a business trip. He was doing some work with my dad, and he came to stay with us. And my mom, I guess, asked, I don't know how long he was staying there. I was young, but my mom did some of his laundry for him. And so he I guess, asked my mom to iron all his he's like whitey tighty underwear, which I just thought was weird. And she didn't do it, refused to do it. So I don't know. I'm sure there's probably
that takes the cake, man.
There's probably weirder things that I don't know about, but that one was odd. So. All right, awesome, guys. Well, hey, I love it. That's a great way to end. Addison, take care. Have a great day. See you later, guys.